And we're live. So this will be a sidecast going alongside the draft, obviously. No Brendan, but you're stuck with me. You're stuck with Chris. Um, as we settle in for the next 9.5 hours. No, it won't be 9.5 hours, but it will feel like 9.5 hours. I'm fairly certain of it. So we are in, of course, the NHL Draft 2023. We are here to find out who's going to go number one. Is it Connor Bedard? Or is Chicago suffering from some form of injury or concussion that means they don't pick Bedard? I personally would like to see them lose their mind, mainly because I've got a team sitting at 4 that's waiting for the pick. Bit of movement this morning already. Some rumors going around this morning already. There's some really interesting draft scuttlebutt. Let's use the word scuttlebutt that's going on at the moment. There's a lot of conversations around who will be going not so much first, but who will be going second, and second will probably then shuffle the order. The top 4 seems to be pretty much locked in terms of who the top 4 are. It's just going to be a case of what is the order of the top 4. So that's something to look out for, and that's something we will get into as we get into the draft, obviously. Also, we've got some trades that have happened. A couple of re-signings have happened. Obviously, the big trade this morning was Riley Smith is off to Pittsburgh for a third. So Riley Smith, an original Golden Knight from the original expansion draft, gets his cup, goes to Pittsburgh. That's the first signing as well for Kyle Dubas. Of course, Dubas acting at the moment as general manager and president of hockey ops. So he is doing both roles. So this will be a really interesting draft. There are a couple of interesting things to look out for. Matvei Michkov is the main thing. Michkov could go anywhere, but literally Michkov could go anywhere. We don't quite know if a team's prepared to jump. We've heard that Nashville is currently trying to move. Nashville tried to move to 5. They offered the picks they offered were not particularly great. So it was very much unlikely that you were going to see them move. But they also apparently tried to hit up San Jose, which terrified me a little bit because I really don't want Mike to trade that pick, and I'm terrified that Mike might lose his mind and trade that pick because, also Plattner has made it very clear he doesn't believe the Sharks are rebuilding. So look, there's a lot of interesting things to discuss. There's a lot of interesting things coming up. There is a very intriguing draft that we have obviously approaching. I'm fascinated to see where it goes. I think everyone here is going to be fascinated to see where it goes as well. Obviously, it's a rare year. The number 1 pick is beyond locked. Number 2 is where the first lot of intrigue comes. Corey Pronman from The Athletic, who's usually pretty good on this sort of stuff, actually had Leo Carlsson going at 2, not Fantilli, which I think is mental. He says that he believes, from what he's heard, that they believe that Carlson's intelligence is slightly more, and that's why there's a bit of a conversation around Leo Carlsson at 2, which again, it's got to be Fantilli as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't mind it if one of them slipped. The other interesting one for me then is what happens at 3. So obviously, if Fantilli slips, it's Fantilli because there's no way Columbus lets him go past. If Fantilli goes at 2, then you've got a situation where the Blue Jackets are apparently very high on Smith as well. San Jose will get whoever's left. So of the 4 who are the consensus centers to go top 4, the Sharks probably have the easiest job here in terms of they just sit and wait. Michkov throws a spanner in the works. I don't think Michkov's going top 4. If Michkov goes top 4, it means that one of the teams has traded up to get him. Philadelphia, Washington are the 2 teams that have been mentioned consistently about Matvei Michkov. Nashville is trying to jump up and make a splash. Again, they've tried at 5 this morning. They've tried at 4 this morning. It's got nowhere so far. So it will be really interesting to see if Nashville have another dip and try to make another move. Barry Trotz is on the record as saying that he wants to make a big deal and then make a big splash. So if you're in the chat, if you're watching at this point in time, if you've got questions, if you want to say who you think should go where, bring it up. We'll have a chat about it. If your team's made moves, if they haven't made moves, but you want them to make moves, talk about what the moves are, and we'll go from there. So I think there's a couple of interesting trades that could happen. I don't think they'll happen today. The Karlsson move for Erik Karlsson, for example, I don't think will happen today, but I think the conversations will happen today. Nylander might. I would anticipate that Nylander could be the one that goes. Hey, Mikey, like the dots? We're going really well with the dots. So I'm interested to see what you think in terms of what your team needs to do, what other teams need to do, what you think of the team's moves. For example, Mikey, I know Toronto this morning with the Camp move. What do we feel about David Camp free signing 4 by 2.4? I think it's an interesting signing. It's not one I would have made with the cap situation for Toronto, but I like the player. I just think you could get the value on the 2.4. Just feels like you can get value on that. So if you, as I said, he's a good player. I really do like it. In terms of the player, I just feel like that money, they're definitely moving on from Nylander now. I do think it's interesting they pushed Kampf to 2.4, but wouldn't pay probably an extra 1.4 for Nylander. I find that an interesting decision. Also, the fact they're talking about Kerfoot as possibly coming back, like that was the latest one this morning, is if they can get Kerfoot to come back at the right number, they'll take Kerfoot comes back. And I think that if Kerfoot came back, I think there might be a riot. I mean, look, they've been mentioned. Toronto's been mentioned about trying to make a 3-way deal work cap-wise for Karlsson, which would be interesting. Sharks have already said. I mean, look, I think they do need some size. I think the conversations this morning would be a bit concerning. The fact they're talking about Ryan Reeves Ryan Reeves was mentioned. Austin Watson was mentioned. Ryan Reeves is a player you move on from once you've got that level of skill. Everyone else has done it, and I don't know if you'd want to bring Ryan Reeves in, but I worry that that's what they might do. They need a bit more size, but I don't think they need to trade off on skill to get size. I feel like there are moves that can be made there that are a bit smarter than that. I'm really interested to see what moves Toronto make. They'll be one of the more fascinating teams, I think. Again, for me personally, from San Jose perspective, wouldn't mind it if they got involved in the Karlsson sweepstakes. Sharks, by the way, for anyone, when Erik Karlsson comes up this morning, and he will be mentioned by somebody, I know it. Erik Karlsson, the Sharks have basically said they're sort of prepared to get the salary to the $8 million range, but they're not prepared to take more on than that. So then all these people going, oh, you have to retain 50% on Erik Karlsson. That's not happening. Under no circumstances is that happening. Well, that's fascinating too. It just came across. So there was a conversation. Don't know if you saw it this week. There was a really interesting, questions that were raised. Things like, one of the players at the combine was asked the question: "It's World War II, and you're the captain of a boat. You have to bomb an enemy boat. The teammates are swimming in the ocean." And they were like, you have to do it. It's an order. What do you do? This is the sort of questions these guys are being asked inside the draft. It's terrifying. Kent Hughes confirmed, by the way, that it was Montreal that asked that question. So I don't know. Do we think that any of the teams are going to move out of the top four or top five? Let's say top five. Let's include Montreal. Kent Hughes just said on the broadcast that he says that it's over 50% that they're keeping that pick. Does anybody believe that any of the top five are moving? I personally, I don't think anyone's moving out, but it depends on what's offered. I think if anyone jumps, I think someone's jumping. The really interesting one for me is going to be if it's Leo Carlson at 2. If it's not Fantilli, and it should be Fantilli, but Pronman has heard that it is, and it's not one of those he's heard, but it might not. Corey Pronman has heard that there is a big chance that it's Carlson and not Fantilli at 2, which again I think is dumb. But if it's Leo Carlson at 2, I can see teams moving heaven and earth to try to get Columbus to move off 3. I don't think they will, but I can see teams moving heaven and earth to try to get Columbus to move off 3 to get Fantilli. And I will say it right now, and I've said it on Twitter as well, but I will say it right now. If Mike Greer trades the 4th pick for San Jose, fire him immediately. Absolutely. If he moves off that 4th pick, fire him immediately. This is not a draft where San Jose should be moving a pick like that one. We need bodies. We need talented bodies for the future. So, but yeah, apparently Nashville are the team that is stalking the floor at the moment and trying to get someone to move. Barry Trotz was very clear during the week that he wants a move and he wants to jump. I actually think the big move might be 6. I think we get through the first 5, and then I think Arizona's the first pressure point, because I think that's where, if teams want Michkov and don't want him to get to Philadelphia, that's where teams will jump. They'll jump in at Arizona. So I'm interested to see. I mean, look. The drama is not on the first overall pick. There is no drama with this pick. There is no drama on this pick at all. We're doing all the stats on. So is Connor Bedard really the first overall pick? If you're not able to watch it, I'll give you that bit of coverage. No, is Connor Bedard the first? Yes. No one's. At least most people aren't pretending. Most people are not pretending. They can't build this one up here. Does anybody here have a player that they are desperate for their team to draft? You can't say Bedard unless you're a Chicago fan, because that's locked in. By the way, I spent all morning typing a couple of the mock drafts into the banner that would scroll across the bottom of the screen so people could see what the mocks were, and they all deleted. So I'm not typing them in again. So I spent all morning putting mocks into the banner, and it deleted itself. So I'm not bothering to go back and do that again, because no, that was a lot of time. I'm very tired. So yeah, at the moment, there's a couple of bits of chatter around about who's possibly going to move. Nylander said Nylander seems to be the most likely. Nylander seems to be the most likely big move this morning. Which, by the way, I still think that Toronto would be stupid to make the move. For all of the conversations that people have about Toronto need to move off cap and Toronto need to make a move and move one of the 4 out, Nylander's performance in bigger spots has been better. And I know people go, he gets lazy at times. Nylander's performance in bigger spots has been really good. He's been the one who's consistently turned up in every playoff series. Like he's been the one who's turned up in all of them. Everyone else has had a moment in a playoff series for Toronto. Nylander's been there consistently, but I personally, and again, not a Leafs fan, contrary to what some people would think in this group, I personally would be a bit worried about some of the things I've heard around what Treliving is looking to do in Toronto. I'm feeling like he's largely bringing everybody back and then making some interesting ads on cap. And again, the question I put, and there's Toronto fans definitely in the chat. Mikey's here, for example. Are you comfortable with re-signing Kampf if it means that you have to move the Nylander contract out? Is that a trade-off that's worth making? Because what are you bringing in for less than Nylander's cap hit that's going to give you the output of Nylander? That's my follow-up question is, what do you bring in that's cheaper that's going to give you the same? Because remember, one of the big criticisms of Toronto towards the end of the season was that, for all of their center depth they had and all of those sorts of things they had, Austin Matthews has been running with Bunting on the wing, which has been fine, but is not really showing depth of wings. And so the plan move Nylander? That feels backwards to me. Also, you got to remember, I expect for Toronto, I expect Muzzin to end up on, as we call it, Robert R. Island. So I think that contract won't be a problem. Pittsburgh fans, I know, are a bit happy this morning. Riley Smith is a really good addition to that roster. Not a bad pickup at all. There's been a couple of really nice moves already this season. I think Kevin Hayes is actually a really good move for St. Louis, especially given that they got the retention they got, which means that Kevin Hayes is playing for St. Louis for $3.5 million, which is far closer to what he was actually worth. That's a good little move for St. Louis. The Bruins cap dumping, look, they're not done. Like, I know that Chara looks like he's coming back to Boston again, but the Bruins cap dumping isn't over because they've still got far too much money, far too little space, and far too much to go onto the books. I really do hope we're not going to have to sit here for 10 minutes and wait while they work out what they're going to do. I mean, I will put money on the fact the league has asked them to take forever so they can do all the coverage of Connor Bedard. But can we not pretend like we all know? It's like Connor McDavid. When the Connor McDavid year, the answer was just go up and say Connor McDavid. Come on, boo Gary. It's time to boo. Boo Gary. They're not booing as loudly as I want. Oh, Gary Bettman decided to try to come out with David Poile to get cheers. That is so mean. That is so mean. Gary Bettman used David Poile as a shield. Oh, and of course, when I say that Barry Trotz is making these moves, of course, it's really David Poyle's draft because Trotz hasn't started yet. It's like the weird situation with Treliving, where Treliving is not allowed at the Leafs desk until Calgary make their pick. If I was Calgary, I'd keep trading back. Oh God. Why does Gary always look surprised when he talks? Gary looks surprised every time he says something. We've also done. Or he's the puppet driving Thunderbird 4. Gary's saying lots of nice things so he doesn't get booed. Okay, now we're going to cheer on David Poyle. I don't know. While this is all happening, does anybody want to predict or project a trade they would like to see or a move they would like to see? He's not actually doing the draft, Gary. We all know that. Stop pretending. Gary Bettman is now dragging out as many predators as he can. So, Pecorino is out there. His hair doesn't move. Thank you for the booze. We appreciate the booze. Everyone needs to boo Gary. Everyone needs to boo Gary. Is there a man that looks less at home being presented with a Gibson guitar than David Poyle? In the last couple of years, we've now lost the two longest tenured general managers because the two longest tenured general managers were David Poyle and Doug Wilson. So they're both gone. So it's, yeah. The change has been dramatic. Oh. So Doug Armstrong is now the longest tenured general manager, 2010. Which gives you an idea because David Poyle was 97 and Doug Wilson was 98. Yeah, so yeah, Poyle was 97, Wilson was 98. Then you've got Doug Armstrong at 2010 is the next one. Yep, ask away, Mikey. How to get into the NHL? Watched a lot of different sports, obviously. I think it was originally through the video games, actually. It was the video games of all things. It was on the The hockey game on the Atari Lynx was actually my first exposure, really, and then on the other consoles, and it was that sort of started me off. And San Jose was from that, and then saw little bits and pieces here and there, and sort of moved on from there. And then after that, after that, it was a case of sort of more coverage was available. Watched a lot more of it. More coverage was available. Watched a lot more of it. Stats, analytics, analyzing those sorts of things. I like doing that sort of stuff. I like a lot of the, my thing with, for example, my other sport is football, soccer football. And I very much like the management side of that instead, and the analysis and the planning and the preparations. That's something I'm really into. So yeah, that's something that I really enjoy. And the NHL give you a lot of that as well. So sort of from there, then did little bits and pieces with, a team here, which I'm not going to go into, but did a little bit there, and then sort of transitioned back into this. Yeah, it's not the easiest sport for Australians to get into in any way, shape, or form. It's really not. Oh, good. Chicago is not pretending. Oh, look, it's Kyle Davidson. For those who saw the meme clip on the streets of Nashville, there are people that don't know who Kyle Davidson is. There's the guys who are interviewing him. Are you into hockey? Where are you from? Chicago. Have you ever been to a Blackhawks game? And it's Kyle Davidson. The Canada Sports Betting Twitter account tweeted out, really hoping our minus 100,000 bet on Bedard at one hits here. Here we go. I wonder. Shock. That is a shock. I liked Kyle Davidson's congratulating him and getting out of the way. Good. We're booing Vegas. That's as it should be. There we go. Okay. So let's get to the really interesting bit now. Let's get to the interesting bit. Okay. Congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights Twitter account who just tweeted out, dang, Chicago took our guy. I don't like Vegas, but I'll pay that one. All right. It is now time for the interesting bit. Fantilli or Carlson? It should be Fantilli. Let's see what Anaheim do. Is there anyone here who would take Carlson over Fantilli? Interested to know. Is there anyone who would take Carlson over Fantilli? For me, there's only one option, and it's Adam Fantilli. But again, I'm in a good position in terms of the Sharks, because for the Sharks, we take whoever's fourth. Like, there's four centers, we take whoever's still there. Okay. Updates as well as we're going in. Luke Fox was talking to Pierre Dorion, who said that the Sens were not close to a DeBrincat trade and are waiting for a deal to be close before letting them talk to the other teams. I've got about 15 million tabs open as we're going right now. So, I'm pleased to see that Chicago. Look, again, I don't like the fact Chicago got the first overall pick. I think there's other reasons for it that I don't like. I am pleased that they just gave him the jersey number that he wants and they didn't bother with a 23 on it. Like, they're not pretending, they're just giving it out straight away. Smart move. Oh god, now they're explaining why Connor Bedard should be a good pick. It's the most self-evident thing I think we've seen in a while, since 97. Okay, now I would like everyone to get in a summoning circle, please, and I want us to summon the idea that Anaheim will lose their ever-loving minds and pick somebody off the board. Because we want this to happen so that San Jose gets a good pick. Now, to be honest with you, look, the top four centers are the top four centers, and they're all pretty good. Okay. They are on the board. Let's see what Anaheim do. Okay. Emily Kaplan asking, when can we expect you in the playoffs again? And I'm like, probably not immediately. I think we're probably looking at another season at least, possibly 2 for Chicago, because Chicago's still not great. Even with Bedard, they're still not great. I would expect the Blackhawks to be bad again. Right. My question, by the way, because I know Mikey, you're in the chat. Do you think that Toronto should be drafting with that pick, or should they be moving it to try to get assets? Because it's one of those things with teams that are competing. It's one of those questions that always gets asked. If you're at the tail end of the draft and you're in a win now mode, do you make the pick or do you see if you can move it for an asset? Like, for example, if I've got the 31st or the 32nd, like if I'm Vegas, if I reckon I can shift that pick for an asset, I'm shifting it for an asset. If I've got the 32nd pick, I'm moving it. That's where I think they're going to go. I think they're going to draft defense. Pronman's mock had them getting actually had them going left wing, but that was because he figures that San Jose will probably get Dragovic, for example. Dragosevic, sorry. And Dragosevic is the big right-hand defenseman sort of available at that tail end of the draft. So I think Toronto should probably look for a defenseman, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Yeah. So basically, we're now in the situation where we've gone from the draft hasn't begun yet to now the draft is real. Right now, the draft is real. Here we go. I do like hearing them refer to Pat Verbeek as Little Ball of Hate. It's quite good. Are you kidding me? They did it. They did it. Pick's been tipped. It is Leo Carlson. It's Leo Carlson. Fantilli's there at 3. And we have heard that the Blue Jackets are really sold on Smith. So if the Blue Jackets take Smith, they took Leo Carlson second. I can't believe that. Okay. Breathe. I am hoping desperately that we can breathe. It's okay. Come on. I need Columbus to lose their ever-loving minds and decide they're going to go Smith still. I need Columbus to lose their ever-loving minds. Oh, wow. Okay, so they actually went Leo Carlson. I would actually, as much as I want Fantilli to be there at 4, he won't be. I would laugh so hard if Jarmo Kekalainen gets up and goes, "Are you crazy? It's Fantilli." Oh my god. Please, I don't ask for much. Please, please let Adam Fantilli drop to 4. Oh boy. You will all see me lose my absolute shit. I'm staggered by that. Adam Fantilli's the pick. Like it's Adam Fantilli. I'm staggered. I'm staggered that that's not Fantilli. They overthought that something fierce. They really overthought that. Look, I like Leo Carlson, but Leo Carlson, Adam Fantilli, I don't see. Oh dear. Well, we knew the chaos was about to descend. Okay, so this is now. I mean, the draft is now relying on Jarmo Kekalainen, and we know how that can go at times. Jarmo has a history. Jarmo Kekalainen has a history of making really off the wall picks. I'd really like him to do one this time, please. Please, Jarmo. Come on. I want Columbus to overthink it and just take Smith. Okay. I wonder how many phone calls Columbus have just got. The phone for Columbus must be ringing right, like at their desk. The phone must be going mental right now. Like, if I'm Jano Kekalainen, I'm demanding a king's ransom at the moment. Okay, this will be fascinating. It's going to be Fantilli 3, I know. I mean, they're going to pull it away, and we're going to get Smith, and Smith is going to be great. Like, Smith is going to be a very good player. I have no issue with that. I've just really loved Adam Fantilli this whole draft process. My favorite player for the Sharks to possibly end up with was Adam Fantilli, because I knew we weren't getting Bedard. So this is the closest. Damn it, Fantilli. So near. Columbus takes Fantilli at third. Damn it. So close. Oh, that was so close to being amazing. It's still going to be good. Jarmo Kekalainen cannot believe he was there. Okay, well, that means it's Smith. I don't think Columbus had a vague expectation that they were going to have a shot at Fantilli. I thought they were sure Fantilli was off the board. Fantilli should have been off the board. What do we think? Do we think that Columbus overthought it? Do we think that Anaheim overthought it on Carlson? Again, I think Leo Carlson will be magnificent. I think he'll be a brilliant player. I just feel like Fantilli's upside is slightly above. They're in the same tier. They're in the same ballpark. I just feel like Fantilli's skating is a level up. Okay. The other really interesting part for me is that now Adam Fantilli is being coached by Mike Babcock. Like, poor bastard. Okay, so now we see if San Jose are smart enough to just make the Smith pick and move on. Do they do something weird like Matvei Michkov? I don't think the Sharks are going Michkov. I think they're going Smith. The Sharks window means they can go Michkov without an issue. I don't think they will. I think they'll go Smith. I also think that San Jose are going to have a bunch of offers for people to jump. I don't think they should touch them. I don't think they should take them. All right. So this is the moment where I might melt down, depending on what San Jose do. Like, we need a lot, but we need a center. And I really, really, really want San Jose to just take the center and don't overthink, don't overplan, just take the center. No, Anaheim have done the overthinking for everybody. All right. Let's find out what's going on here. Look, we knew there'd be a few interesting tweaks and moves. And just think, after 4, it really gets interesting because then you've got Michkov, and we don't know what's going to happen with Michkov. I suspect that Leonard probably goes to Montreal. I don't think they're going to do the Michkov move. Okay. What are our thoughts so far, everybody? How are we going? Also, can we just give a bit of a shout out, because we'll mention them when they come up. But the Arizona Coyotes once again went with matching suits. They actually went and did the matching suits thing, and kudos. Not a lot of action at the Sharks table at the moment. Not a lot of action at the Sharks table. They look very much like they know what the pick is. Like, I don't think they've overthought this at all. They know what the pick is. They're not moving. And there they go. So the Sharks are on their way. This feels very much like Will Smith. Look, I think the Coyotes staff would take the idea that they look cute. And I think that the Coyotes staff would take that as a win. But look, they did it last year. They turned up in matching suits last year. I'm just thrilled they did it a second time. I think we're about to get a bunch of moves. Not just also, by the way, if you check out on Twitter, the Coyotes have matching belt buckles as well. The whole suit matches. Here we go. San Jose. Do I lose my shit, or is it just normal? I like my green. That might change in a minute. He didn't want to congratulate Vegas at all. I really like Mike Green now. Woo, Patrick Marleau, development coach. Yep, Will Smith. If you don't think the social team is happy with the idea that the Sharks just drafted Will Smith, They are actually playing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the room. They're playing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's a bit funny. Here we go. Now the fun starts. Yeah, the fun starts now because Montreal is on the clock, and Montreal has been mentioned around Michkov, but not highly. I also suspect, and I've said this before when we were starting the sidecast, Philadelphia want Michkov, and they've been mentioned. Washington have also been mentioned with Michkov. Also, I suspect that Nashville might want to get in on the action there too. If you do, 5 and 6 is the jump. Mikey, you're trying to hurt me? My signed Sharks Marlowe is actually behind that cupboard there. It's just I haven't moved it yet. Okay. So I'm really interested now where we go. Do we get a draft? Do we get a draft of just Montreal going ahead? Do we get someone try to jump ahead of Philadelphia for Michkov? That's the question mark, I think. I think that the Arizona pick is the one to target. If I was trying to get Matvei Michkov, I would probably target the 6th. Because again, Philadelphia's got 7. Philadelphia's got 7. Washington's got 8. He's not making it to 9. Michkov's not making it to 9. If you want Michkov, probably jump into 6. I reckon Leonard goes 5th. I'm happy with the Will Smith pick. Again, I really wanted Adam Fantilli. They taunted me by making him vaguely available. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, down goes Brown followed up with a brilliant response, which was we're all Mark Lazarus tweeted out, we're all laughing at them playing Fresh Prince after the Will Smith pick, but the dude's going to be dying inside. And down goes Brown's like, he's headed to California, so now he has to whistle for a cab. Oh. Poor Will. Yes, why did you pick the song? I felt I had to. Oh no, he's rapping. Will, Will, Will. No, you're a very white kid. Don't rap. Yeah, I really feel like they're about to hit the. Yeah, so I reckon my prediction is that the first move we see is that somebody's going 6 for Mishkov. Okay, my question: Who is likely to target 6 for Michkov. The Habs are on their way to the stage. The Habs are not trading. They are not trading. I predict this will be Leonard. Right. It feels like they're going to pick John Leonard. Yeah, Ryan Leonard, sorry. Okay, here we go. How will the Habs screw this up? How will the Habs screw this up, folks? David Reinbacher is the answer. David Reinbacher. Wow. That's Reinbacher. Carrie, it's David Reinbacher. Oh, Carrie. So right-handed defenseman. There you go. There's Mikey. There's your right-handed defenseman. There he goes to Montreal. Okay. If anyone offers Arizona a trade at this point in time, you ask for a franchise. Okay. Okay. This will be interesting because Leonard's right there. I don't think Arizona are not going Michkov. That's a lock. Arizona won't go Matvei Michkov. So you would think that Arizona want Leonard as the center. But if, for example, you were to get Washington decide to jump in front of Philadelphia, you could do that. And you could probably still end up with he's right as a right winger, sorry, Leonard. He's right wing, but he can also play center. If you take Ryan Leonard, if you want Ryan Leonard, for example, Gabe Perreault's also available. Zach Benson's also available. So you've got the options there. The options exist. Yeah, the question remains, and Brendan can't be on stream, but he just messaged me there, and as he just said, and he puts it, they had offers to trade down. They could have traded down and still probably got Reinbacher. So there's a value question in that. There's a very big value question in that. Now it's a question of, does Arizona make a pick? Does Arizona want players? It's a question we all have to ask ourselves. Does Arizona want players? I don't know if Arizona wants players. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. Okay, if you are Arizona, are you taking best on board? Are you taking the flyer on Michkov? Are you seeing if there's a trade partner? I would at least be answering the phone. Especially if you only drop a couple of picks. Like, again, if Washington ring you and you're Arizona, you take the call. I think if I'm Arizona, I'm answering the phone if I get a phone call from Detroit, if I get a phone call from Washington, possibly even St. Louis. I'd probably be prepared to slide as far as 10 if I'm Arizona, remembering they've got 12 as well. So Arizona have 12 as well. I would be perfectly comfortable if I'm Arizona sliding to 10 that I could still get somebody that could be of use relatively quickly. Especially if you're an organization like Arizona that values future picks. You could probably get something out of someone. I'm answering the phone if I'm Arizona. But they're coming up. Arizona are making the pick. All right. Quick projection. Do they take Michkov? I think it's Leonard. I do agree with the analysis that you take Michkov, and if he won't sign with you, you've got an asset to trade. Why are they playing Intergalactic for the Arizona Coyotes going up? Is that where their next arena is going to be? Wow, that's a reach. Simashev. Dmitry Simashev. He was mocked to go to Arizona, but mocked to go to Arizona at 12. So they picked him here. By the way, Simashev's got the same issue. He's on a KHL deal. So it's the exact same issue. Simashev was scheduled to go, but at 12. All right. Philadelphia are on the clock, folks. Philadelphia have a clear run. That's interesting. This is fascinating. I'm weird. Because again, the issue with Simashev is the exact same issue as Michkov. Is he's got a KHL contract. I don't think he gets into the teens. I don't think he gets past. I'd be staggered if he gets past Philadelphia. And if he gets past Philadelphia, I don't think he gets past Washington. But can you really see the Washington Capitals passing on Matvei Michkov? I can't. I think Philadelphia will make the run, though. They've got to. That's mental. Yeah, he won't get past Washington. If he gets past the Flyers, he doesn't get past Washington. So, yeah, I would suggest, look, Leonard feels more natural in Philly than Michkov does. Michkov feels like a cap. And that's not just the Russian thing. Michkov feels like a capital. Leonard feels more naturally Philadelphia, and Michkov really feels like a capital. And like the talk all the way along was the Caps have been trying to work deals. Michkov was apparently alluding to the fact that he wanted to go play with Ovechkin and that he might not come over unless he could. There was a lot of stuff before the draft about that idea. I don't buy into that per se, but the Washington link feels normal. That makes sense to me. So the weird thing that's coming out, Darren Drager tweeted out, Habs had trade discussions, but the scouts were adamant they needed to hold their position, but then made a pick that they probably could have got a little bit later. I don't understand that one for the life of me. The only thing I can think of is that the Coyotes. The only thing that I can think of is that the Coyotes had indicated that they were going to take David Reinbacher, and so they decided that they needed to take Reinbacher at 5th. But I don't know, because I always felt like Arizona was going to get Simashev, but I thought they were going to get him much later than they did. It feels like two teams panicked and reached. And now it gives the Philadelphia Flyers a shot if they want him. Okay. There's no way in my mind that Michkov clears 10. I think our next players are probably Ryan Leonard, Benson, and Perreault. Ryan Leonard, Michkov, Benson, Perreault. I think they're the next ones. Okay. Flyers are up. Flyers are making the pick. Do they do it? Flyers did it. The Philadelphia Flyers select Matvei Michkov. Philadelphia the whole way along was what I'd been saying, that I'd heard. All I'd been hearing was Philly was desperate for Michkov and they wanted him. There it is. I kind of feel like I'll get him earlier. Just untangling myself while we're doing this. It's all good. This is why you need wireless headphones. So there we go. Michkov does go. I mean, look, he's not going to play for Tortorella. But think about the fact that Adam Fantilli has been drafted by a team where Mike Babcock is going to be his coach. And Matvei Michkov has just been drafted by a team who, if he's still there, John Tortorella is his coach. Two of the biggest talents in this draft, and there is the potential that you're going to see Babcock coaching one of them, or we'll definitely see Babcock coaching one of them, and potential for Tortorella to get the other one. Interesting. Very interesting. Look, I'm going to give Philadelphia credit. It's not something I do all the time. I'm happy that for Philadelphia, actually went out and did the thing. But they actually went and did the thing. You know, it's not something we see clubs consistently doing. I'm staggered that Philadelphia did the right thing. Like, I'm genuinely staggered that they did the right thing. It's not something we're used to with the Flyers in recent memory. I'm also kind of disappointed. Yeah, personally, I'm kind of disappointed that Philadelphia and Chicago got probably the two most outstanding talents in the draft. They just asked him when he's coming to the NHL. So Michkov, when asked, when are you coming to the NHL? He said, quite soon. I've always suspected that there will be a buyout. I've always suspected that there might be a buyout in the future for Matvei Michkov, that it might be a case of the KHL teams want money. So Sochi, I think, will probably ask for money. So I'm interested with that one. So the fact that Michkov's answer when they said, when are you coming to the NHL, was soon. Okay, so we now move on to an anticlimactic moment, which is Washington without Michkov. I think we're about to start possibly seeing some of the trades too. It wouldn't shock me if we start seeing a couple. I don't think we'll see a lot of trades today, but I think we might see a couple. All right. So Briere sounding very much like they think there's a deal. Yeah. Danny Briere seems to, the way he's talking, I would suggest that Danny Briere thinks there is a deal there that will get Michkov over earlier. All right. Washington is up. They're trying to talk up the fact that it was a good pick based on, global fan base. I would have just said it's a good pick because he's talented. Yeah, this is Ryan Leonard. This is 100% Ryan Leonard. Washington didn't even bother to congratulate Vegas. They just picked Ryan Leonard. That was almost Lou Lamoriello speed. Okay. So Ryan Leonard is a Washington Capital. It's interesting, by the way, and again, I know that I have Toronto fans in chat. Ryan Leonard, they're doing the comparable with Tom Wilson. There's been a bit of conversation around the idea that Toronto might try to do something around Wilson, around Tom Wilson. Thoughts? I think the biggest issue with that is contract, which is ridiculous. And I don't think you can get the contract eaten anytime soon. But thoughts on that? Okay, so now we're getting into sensible. Now we're getting into sensible moves. Also, the actual terms of the Camp deal have just come through as well. The last pick was Ryan Leonard. Ryan Leonard to Washington. Michkov was before that to Philadelphia. The terms, by the way, the terms of the Camp deal has just come through. It's not good. So the terms of the David Camp deal is 1.5 million base and 1.35 million in signing bonus for the first, and then years 2 to 4, 1.75 and 1.32 signing, and years 1 to 3 have a 10-team no trade. So they gave him a no trade. Like, I know it's 10 teams, but that's ridiculous. How the hell does David Camp get a 10-team no trade? That's dumb. Again, I don't mind the player. That's a dumb contract. Okay. So, all right. Let's have a look. Where are we at? Okay. Oh, the Ducks have also unveiled their new jersey. Yeah, I know it's only 10 team, but it's a 10 team no trade where he's likely to pick 10 teams where a cap dump is. Like his 10 team no trade is going to involve everybody that has cap space. Like he's going to basically make it so they can't move him if that looks bad to anybody who might actually be able to take the contract. I would not give a third or fourth liner, and he is a third or fourth liner, and you've largely got him for penalty kill. Largely, that's what he's there for. Like his statistics, when you look at his statistical charts, he offers nothing offensively, statistically. He is just defense. You don't offer that a 10 team no trade. All right. Detroit. Now, if there's a team that won't overthink this, it's Detroit. Oliver Moore is here. Danielson's here. Benson's around. Danielson. So Danielson as the center going to the Red Wings. Steve Eisenman remembering to thank Vegas. So that's Nate Danielson to back up long term to back up Dylan Larkin. That's a good little move, that one. I reckon we're probably looking at Dvorsky. So I reckon that we're probably looking at Dvorsky probably to St. Louis here. The fact that Benson's still sitting there is interesting. Like Zach Benson's interesting. I wonder. Let's just have a look. I'm interested to see. So next up, we've got the run of the next teams is really interesting. So you've got St. Louis, who I think will probably go. As I said, I reckon that they'll probably go Dvorsky. I also think then Vancouver's going defense. I'd be staggered if they didn't. Arizona, who the hell knows with Arizona? I don't know what Arizona are going to do now. I'm confused by what Arizona are going to do, in all honesty. The fact that Benson's still there is intriguing to me. He might, I don't know how far he gets. Okay. Do St. Louis trade or do St. Louis stick? Okay. So this will be fascinating. I'm just listening to Steve Eisenman because, you've got to listen to Steve Eisenman. When he talks, you have to listen. Okay. St. Louis have to go center. They have to go center. So there's just footage that's just appeared at the on the Sportsnet page. Connor Bedard has already signed his ELC. He's at the table signing it. Blues are going to the stage. Again, I've said that I think that this is. I said that I reckon that this is Dvorsky. So I think that they're probably going to go Dvorsky. There we go. Dvorsky. There we go. I'm available for soothsaying and fortune telling. Look, we all know Steve Yzerman is never going to say anything other than they're in a rebuilding phase until they're like holding the cup. Like once they're holding the cup, then Steve will admit they're no longer rebuilding. But look, I think the Red Wings have actually done it quite well. I think they've been quite clever about the way they've done it. So, you know, I don't think there's many issues with the way that they've actually done the rebuild. I think it's been quite clever to not rush it. And I know that there's a lot of Red Wings fans going, yeah, but we want to compete now. But you also don't want to blow it by like trying to sprint a rebuild. Remember, the other thing you've also got to acknowledge here is that there was a lot of Ken Holland damage to undo. A lot of Ken Holland damage that needed to be undone. So Simashev for Arizona has already said that he's under contract still with the K, but he is hoping to come over soon once he's got contractual issues. They've got to go sort all that out. The Bruins' big issue is, and I talked about it off the jump here. The Bruins' big issue is that cap space is non-existent, and I know that there's all the talk about re-sign. You know, obviously they want to re-sign. They want to make the re-signing for Watty, and they're also talking about bringing Chara back as well. There's not a lot of cap space. There's not a lot of cap space available for Boston, and they've got a lot to do. So, like, it's not disastrous, but there's a lot of cap massaging that needs to happen in Boston. And like Taylor Hall was the first part of it, still doesn't give them enough money. I think while we're here, I'll just quickly check it. But I believe they're still cap-wise, they're still in trouble. So they've got 10 million in cap projected, and they've got Tyler Bertuzzi to re-sign. They've got to work out. They've got to replace Krejci. They've got to probably replace Patrice Bergeron. They've got to sign Jeremy Swayman. They've probably got to land. They've only got next season. They've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forwards under contract. That includes AJ Greer. Yeah, I meant Milan Lucic. Yeah, but yeah, I meant Lucic. Just for the record, I was awake at 4:30 this morning, taking someone to the airport. So, you know, I'm a bit tired. Yeah, Milan Lucic, sorry. But yeah, they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forwards, including AJ Greer in that number, under contract. They've got Jeremy Swayman to also re-sign as an RFA. They've got 10 million in cap to do it. There's a lot of moves that Boston still have to make here. I don't quite know what the moves are. Like, they're not easy to do. It's doable, but it's not easy. Bergeron's not. I don't think Bergeron's back. I don't know how much Bertuzzi's going to want there. Look, I think even as a Boston fan, I think even you would possibly have to admit that Boston overachieved to the level that what everyone expected last year. I don't think anyone expected them to be that. And I think what we saw in the playoffs was a little bit of the running out of steam. So I don't know. Obviously, David Pasternak for years doing the whole I'm only playing for the love of the game changed a lot of things in Boston as well. And again, no shade on that. Get your money. But, that was always one of the linchpins that held Boston together was they got Pasternak on a ridiculous deal. So. Canucks make a pick, and it's Tom Willander. So they go and get the defenseman. Vancouver go and get their right-handed defenseman. That was funny. They literally just walked up and didn't say congratulations to David Poyle, didn't do the congratulations to Vegas, went, we select Tom Willander, and then left. Now we come to the Arizona Coyotes. Any guesses? Any guesses? Anyone? Coyotes? I don't know. I don't know. I give up on what Arizona. I don't know what Arizona's going to do. I'm thoroughly confused at this point in time. I like. It's going to be they're talking about it on the coverage, and they're right. It's going to be a really loaded college hockey season because a lot of these guys are going back to college. I wonder if they can trade for that. I did sort of say that before. Surely that they can just trade for an arena. Anyone got a spare one? It's like, has anyone got a spare arena we can have, please? They don't want an arena. What they want to trade for is just a handful of votes just to get them over the line for the next arena. Look, as I said, when I had the chat to Leah Morel at PHNX Sports a couple of weeks ago, like they were talking about it, and as they said, the arena falling over was a bit ridiculous in terms of just like that land is literally empty wasteland, and they were talking about it being affordable housing, and they're like, you can't put affordable housing on that land. They will get an arena. There's a couple of articles that have just been released, like literally during the draft, talking about the fact that they've got 6 different options at the moment that they're trying to work through, none of which will require a vote. So they will get something. It's just a matter of where it's going to be. Like, and a couple of people have mentioned it, but it's true. If you move a team out of Arizona, the next expansion franchise is moving into Arizona. So And again, not in the chat, not in on the feed, but just to give you some feedback from Brendan, the message simply said, "Give us a trade, you cowards." Agreed. There should be a trade coming here soon. Like someone move off your pick, especially if it's a really terrible pick. I reckon we're looking at. I think we might get some. Look, well, I mean, remember, you've got the Pittsburgh Penguins are coming up, and Kyle Dubas has never met a first round pick that he doesn't mind moving off. So, if you're looking for someone who might possibly trade, Kyle Dubas moving off a first round pick feels natural. It feels normal. I don't think he will, but it feels right. It just feels right. I wonder what's. So who's next? We've got. Is it Arizona? Who knows what Arizona is planning on doing? Buffalo, the Penguins, and then Nashville. There we go. So the Coyotes are up. The matching suits are all coming up now. They look like stewards. Like it looks like you're at one of those sort of more fancy movie, not a theater in terms of performances. I mean an old-fashioned movie theater, and they all look like ushers. Like they're all in the same burgundy suit. Stay classy. Can I just say the ESPN analysis has not been great? Oh, Daniel Boot. They've jumped again. They've jumped again. Daniel Boot, the right winger, who was late first round. Like Boot was projected around 20-ish, about 18 to 20-ish. That's a jump. Arizona, just Perot is still there. Matt Wood is still there. Zach Benson is still sitting right there. There's a couple of players that are sitting, and like Daniel Boot. Okay. I wonder if they're taking players that they don't think will come over for a couple of years because they don't have a they don't actually have like an arena to put them in. Yeah, the only thing I can think of is they're picking Russians because they don't have a rink yet and they don't want to put them in Mullet Arena. Zach Benson still being available is weird to me. Can I also just say that again? I mentioned it before that pick, but the ESPN analysis has been hilarious because so far every time their analyst has gone, I think what they need is they've made the exact opposite pick. Exact opposite pick. Okay. The Ottawa Senators social team is weird. The Ottawa Senators did a social thing where they were like, he's a Leafs fan. He never convert to Ottawa Senators fans. Cut back to, I'm an Ottawa Senators fan. What's the point of it's just ridiculous. Buffalo is up. Okay. Where are we at? Look, Buffalo's in a weird position where they're actually drafting from a position of strength. Like, not something we're ultra used to. We're used to Buffalo drafting off desperate need. And they're drafting from a position where they are definitely already on the improve. Anyone who gets to go to Buffalo is probably going to find themselves in a decent spot. The Buffalo Sabres, by the way, can I just say that the Buffalo Sabres, and remember, they're under Don Granato, which, first of all, is one of the great mafia names of our time. But secondly, the people at the table, they just did the pan of the Senators, of the Sabres bench, and they all look like they're in the mafia. This looks like the opening scene of Goodfellas. And there goes Benson. That's a really good pick. That's a really good pick. Buffalo, Zach Benson at 13. That's a really, really, really good pick. That's going to be good. That's fantastic. That's again, don't like praising Buffalo, but that's a really, really good pickup. Benson gives them so many options. Tage Thompson, just, dear God. Thompson, Savoy's coming through, Benson, Oh, they're going to be scary. Buffalo's got now putting the pieces together to actually be scary. So, they've got a bit of time to develop. But you've got the pieces to develop now. You didn't have the pieces to develop before. You've got them. That's clever. Like, I'm very much here for this pick. I think it's a very smart pick. Tuck, Thompson, Benson, Savoie. Oh, that's promising. That's very promising. Oh, Pittsburgh. Now we find out, does Kyle Dubas do something that he doesn't normally do? Draft at position. Look, if you're Kyle Dubas, surely you take Perreault. Surely you take Perreault. All of them, apparently. Especially, I think, not only do you need all of the old dudes, but I think you need them all on really good contracts because you've got no money left. Everyone needs to sign for like $1 million. It's the only way. It's the only way all the contracts are getting done is you've got to sign everyone for $1 million. So Boston are just really at the moment steering into the skid in terms of like where our brand is old guys. I would have moved away from that. I would have possibly looked at a couple more moves, but I'm not running the Bruins, obviously. I think the big problem for the Bruins is that, they're not going to move. They're not going to move off Marchand, obviously. Charlie Coyle's contract is an interesting one. The Pavel Zacha one's interesting. There's a lot of money tied up in weird deals. I think the interesting one is, obviously all the talk is about, are they going to re-sign Bertuzzi in Boston? I think Swayman's the interesting conversation. What do they do with Swayman? Because I think the thing that came through in the playoffs is that you can't. I think the thing that came through in the playoffs is you cannot play Allmark non-stop. Like you've got to have that rotation. So they need somebody who can play as a 1B. I don't think you can run Linus Allmark through that many games again. I just don't think it's possible. Penguin, what? Kyle Dubas is making the pick. He's actually going to pick. He doesn't normally do this. What's wrong with him? Is he broken? Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to run the Bruins with the Sharks jersey in the background. No. Look, if they offered, I'd say yes. Oh, I think they overthought that one. I think I think they overthought that one. Braden Yeager. While you're over, if you're over in Boston and you're going over to obviously the Red Sox focus, if you're over there, if you can have a bit of a word to Fenway Sports and just ask them to like tip a little bit more money into like Liverpool's transfer kitty over in the English Premier League, really appreciate it. Jaeger's interesting. Jaeger was sort of 20-ish. The fact that Perot is still sitting there is amazing. So that means we're up to Nashville. Look, Nashville's had some really interesting, like, yeah, Nashville's had some really interesting things fall into their lap here. Oh, we've got time to talk Liverpool if you want. Trust me on that. We've got time. I think Liverpool are going to make the right signings. I think that everyone's got to just stop panicking a little bit. They've got time. Two of the players Liverpool are going to sign are currently at the under 21s European Championships anyway. So just those deals won't happen until that's done. That's Kone and Drum. But and overnight, the links that have been made there, I actually think that Fenway's getting to the point where they might drop some money. So they definitely can afford it. And yeah, Tim, your pick's okay. Like there's a couple of really good players still sitting there, and you've got to remember for the Red Wings, you've only got 2 picks, and then you're back up again, and like Perot is still sitting right there. So Gabriel Perot is still sitting there. Oliver Moore is still sitting there. Matthew Wood is still sitting there. So one of those 3 players will still be there when one of those 3 players will still be there when Detroit come back around. So I think you've actually got a really good shot at another good pick here. Stevie Y being Stevie Y. But yeah, we got a lot of time here. So if you want to mention Liverpool by all means. I will write that crap down like mother. He's got a lot of rebuilding to do. Like I will give Steve Eisenman the biggest pass on the planet, because if you see the state that the Red Wings and Tim, if you're still in chat, can confirm this. If you saw the state the Red Wings were in when Eisenman got in the door in terms of in the seat, Ken Holland left a mess, like an absolute mess. It's what they're going to find when he leaves the Oilers, is a mess. If Nashville are smart here, by the way, Perot has just fallen into their lap. Like, and Perot should be going, like, Perot should have gone higher than this. So the fact that Perot's still available. And we're back. That was fun. The internet decided to have a brief holiday from reality, which was fantastic. It's exactly what we wanted at this point in time. So we are back. I come back in time to see Samuel Honjak. All right. Okay, so it is now time for the most fun of the draft, which is Brad for a Living can walk back in the room. Okay. Yes, I forgot to pay the bill. No, if you actually want to know what happened, I have a cat that has a habit of sleeping on the modem, and I'm pretty sure the cat disconnected the modem. So we've put a box over the top of it to stop the cat from disconnecting us again. So Detroit is back on the clock again. The fact that Perot is still there is mental. I still can't get over that fact. Like, I thought I was coming back to Perot being gone. Not yet. So I think, yeah. Well, so while we're in that break, back to Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to make a couple of big signings in the next probably week and a half. I'm not particularly worried about the stress of they haven't done anything yet, because not many clubs have. Um, oh dear. So apparently, someone's just tweeted out the New York Rangers account doxed their own telephone line and then had to delete the post. That's a mistake. That's a big mistake. Mm-hmm. I think for the Leafs, well, first of all, no, I mean, I'd much rather have Klopp, but anyway, Leafs. I mean, Bonk has felt like the right decision for a while. Bonk probably feels right for me for the Leafs. I just feel like, again, the problem is, I think a couple of things can be true at once. I think that the Leafs have been good enough to go further. And I was not someone who believed they necessarily needed to make massive changes. I don't necessarily like the direction that Treliving's taking them. But we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, it's very early and we'll see what happens. I still think that losing Nylander would be a mistake for Toronto. Boston overperformed last year. That's true. And I think Boston are probably in for a couple of bumpy years, not rough tail end years, but a couple of bumpy years. Toronto, I worry that Toronto spends too much time overthinking it. I really do. And this fascination with getting bigger and tougher is ridiculous because they do get bigger and tougher and they do the right moves for that and it falls over anyway. And then, like, so everyone's going to use Vegas as the example of, well, look at what they did. They were tough and they were big and blah, 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 blah. Vegas had the right matchups to work. If Vegas had bumped into a couple of other teams, Vegas don't get that far. Like, legitimately, they don't. Like, the interesting part for me is that the Oilers were the perfect matchup for Vegas, because Vegas just outlasts. Like, they outlast you. It's not that they beat the living hell out of you. It's that they can roll. They don't have one superstar line, but they can roll 4 lines that are interchangeable with each other. I still don't like the roster construction, and I know they won a cup, and I sound stupid, but I still don't like the roster construction in Vegas. I still think it's a bit odd, but they walked into some very good matchups. And that's the other thing too. And this is the other problem is it all comes down to who you match up against, to be honest with you. Like, literally, that's part of the problem. Boston, Toronto, Tampa, all have to run through each other. And look, I'm going to use the Pacific in the what I refer to as that San Jose era. Like, San Jose, one of the things that stopped San Jose from winning cups when they were really good was, look at the murderers row in that West. Right? The murderers row in the West. The West would beat the ever-loving crap out of each other. I think this year, the East beat the crap out of themselves, and Vegas had the great matchups. The Oilers are the perfect matchup for Vegas because Vegas just had to, and LA have given the template. It worked last year against Edmonton. It worked a lot of the time this year against Edmonton. The template on how to handle the McDavid Draisaitl versus the rest of the Oilers. LA had it down. They just didn't have the cattle to get over the line. Vegas did it and just carried it out. So it's the matchups. And Toronto and Boston and Tampa have to see each other all the time. That's not fun. Like, when you look, I don't think the bigger D is the issue. I think more mobile D is an issue. I think they had the right D. I think they played the wrong D. I think playing Justin Hall and moving Rasmus Sandin was a mistake. Like, I think Mana's pretty sure isn't toughness. Mana just disappears mentally a little bit. I think the other problem is, and I said this before, one of the biggest problems the Leafs have is that you've got Austin Matthews, and playing on his wing, you had Michael Bunting, which means why the hell would you move William Nylander out of the team? You're looking at wingers, you're looking at depth of wings, you're looking at who can play with those top players, and you're going to move Nylander out and then bring back David Kampf on 2.4 with a 10-team no move and possibly look at bringing back Alex Kerfoot? That's backwards to me. And look, they need to make adjustments. I'm not saying they don't. Toronto do need to make adjustments. I just don't think the overhaul they're looking at is the right one. 100%. Nylander's not one of. Nylander is their best playoff performer. Like, he is their best playoff performer. So the idea of trading the guy who's worked in the playoffs for them is mental. Ooh, okay. Sandim Pellikka. So they get their defenseman. Red Wings get their defenseman. Okay. Interesting. That's an interesting move. If I was Winnipeg, I am sprinting. If I am Winnipeg, I am sprinting to the dais right now to go and draft Perreault as my center, as my left winger. Like, I'm running to get Perreault as my left winger at this point in time. The other problem here is that Chicago have 19. So imagine Chicago then also draft the winger alongside Bedard. That's mental. Okay. Yeah, I'd be running to make the Perreault pick if I'm Winnipeg. Like, they need some quality young players. Like, just don't. I wouldn't draft position if I'm Winnipeg at the moment. I just draft skill. Yeah, Megan Chacker's right. Not a phrase you say all the time. Megan Chacker is right when she says that, it's a slow build for Detroit, but when they come out on the end of the wave of the build, it's going to be a tidal wave. Yeah, I think you've probably got. My big thing with the offseason is that I worry that Toronto was going to panic and make all the wrong moves with a roster that's good enough, and they are good enough. I think the move was moving Keefe out, but you've got to find someone to bring in place of him. But I thought the move was Keefe. The fact that Dubas goes and they're going to now bring almost everybody back when everyone was like, Dubas needs to make the move. Dubas needs to make the moves. And Dubas goes, I'm ready to make the moves. And then Dubas goes, and it looks like they're not going to make the moves. And the one they're going to make is the one player they probably shouldn't trade out. screams panic to me. I don't know why they're panicking. Like, their window's not closing wasn't closing rapidly. I get the Canadian media thing is a thing, but their window's not closing that rapidly. Plus, you got to remember like one of Toronto's biggest hamstrings there is the Muzzin contract, which is again either going to be traded to someone else or Robert-R Island, and he'll go on to LTIR, and that'll give them all the cap space back for Muzzin. I think that the trade mistake that Toronto made was last season not moving off Muzzin. And we said that when Brendan and I did the season preview, we both said that the move was to move off Muzzin then and try to get him out then. And they kept him, and then he got the injury, came back, and he was done. I really want Justin Hall to come back for Toronto just for the laughs. All right. Here come the Jets. All right. Winnipeg, are they going to make a smart decision, or are they going to really screw this up? Colby Barlow. That's interesting. I'm interested in the fact that Perreault would have slid. So we're now looking at, this is roughly where he was supposed to go as well. Like Pronman had him at 20 to Seattle, so Barlow's not that much of a stretch. It's, again, there's still some players on the board that I'm surprised are still there. Could be intriguing. Okay. Okay. My other question is, do we start seeing teams in the tail end here moving the picks? Like, traditionally, if you had Dubas in charge of Toronto, the pick would already have been traded 4 times. St. Louis have another pick coming up. If I'm Colorado, Colorado should be moving picks. I wouldn't keep those picks. I'd be moving. They've got 2 picks at the end. I'd move one of them. St. Louis has got another pick. I'd move another 2 picks. I'd move one of those. By the way, for anybody who's watching in the background with the cat, that is not the cat that sat on the modem. There's another cat that sat on the modem. Can I just say, the player I'm looking forward to being drafted the most is just my favorite name, which is Quentin Musty. I'm really looking forward to the Quentin Musty drafting. I'm here for Quentin Musty. Okay, so there's still nobody, as they said on the coverage, there's still no one, Future Leaf Musty. There's still no one drafted from the queue, which is interesting. Musty might get that far. I mean, there's only a few that I'm sort of fairly convinced on. It feels to me, for example, like San Jose will go defense at 26, and I think the Dragicevic mock from Pronman Mayer is probably accurate. Toronto is interesting. I do agree that Toronto should probably add a defenseman. Depends if they think the value is there in the defenseman. Can I just say I'm very disappointed we didn't get like a single spotlight over the top as the general manager of the Leafs walked to the desk after the pick was made. Like, I wanted like a single spotlight and just sort of watching him watching Brad Treliving walk out, or like the Stone Cold Steve Austin glass shatters. Oh my God, that's Treliving's music. That could have been fun. What a half-assed solution that was. Yeah, see, the biggest right-handed defenseman available, I'm pretty sure, is going to San Jose a couple of picks before you. I think Dragicevic is going to San Jose. But again, the fact that, Oliver Moore and Perreault are still available, like, how far can they fall? My favorite tweet, by the way, I don't know if anyone's seen a picture of Colby Barlow, but Jeff Vayette on Twitter tweeted out that Colby Barlow was about to be the first guy to sign an ELC and a plus 35 deal in the same contract. He looks like a man, like an old man. Like, he doesn't look like a young guy who's just been drafted. He looks like he's worked in stationery for his whole life. Okay, what do they do? I would probably, here is where I would go Perreault, because you can have Perreault and Bedard, so you can have the center and a winger. Makes sense. Oliver Moore, that's the other one. That's a good pick. That's another center. So there's two centers. They've got back-to-back center. That's a really good pick. So you've got two centers. So Chicago's gone out and got two centers now to replenish the stocks. That's a good look. That's a good pickup, and he's a really good skating center too. So they've got two brilliant skating centers. It's really interesting as well because again, you've got a lot of guys who are going to play college this year who are going to do the rest of their development in college, and then depending on where their team is towards the playoffs, possibly come in. Like I would be surprised if Chicago decided to call more up, like because you don't need to. Like you can leave more in college for another 12 months and have him ready to go next year when you're a little bit better. Or you're expecting to be a little bit better. You can probably do it that way. I probably wouldn't drag him up early. And I think a lot of the players that are being picked around here are probably going to spend some time in college if they're a US college development. And there's a lot of US development players getting picked at the moment too. That's an interesting change up. Is a lot of US college, US development. Not many Q. Like no one values the punching in the face of the Q. Yeah, I'm not enjoying the fact that like they've drafted. Because I'm not enjoying the fact that Chicago's drafted well. But let's face it, the first pick was the easiest thing ever. It's like when Ken Holland gets the credit for drafting Connor McDavid, and you're like, all he did was say the pick. He had no part in any of it. I'm interested to see where we go now. Surely Seattle are not dumb enough, and surely they just take Perreault. Like the fact that Perreault's dropped, like the pre rankings, for example, Scott Wheeler had Perreault at the 7th best player in the draft. Pronman had him going 13th to Buffalo. So the fact that like Gabe Perreault has made it this far, that's an interesting thing. So interesting sidebar here. And there was I'm just got one of the tweets that just popped up. Somebody talking about the Habs and what the problem with the Habs is. Talking about the idea of teams that have gone out and used those early picks wisely to go and rebuild themselves. And last year, obviously, the Habs had the first overall pick. This year, they've got 5th. Slavkovsky and Reinbacher are an interesting decision, given those drafts, as to who to take to rebuild the Habs. That's a fascinating way to look at it. Is that's the players they've chosen with ridiculously high picks. A situation where Montreal would not necessarily expect to be. So it's one of those things. Like it's why like my whole thing at the bottom there with the hopes that the Sharks don't trade pick 4. if you've been competing for a while or contending for a while, and then you're suddenly in a rebuild where you desperately need good quality young players, you can't blow it if you've got a top 5 pick. I wonder if Montreal will eventually view their picks as a missed opportunity. If the rebuild in Montreal doesn't take the way they think it will, I think they might view those 2 early picks as a massive misstep. Okay, Chalet was projected by Pronman to be going to Toronto at 28. And he was 14th best on Wheeler's board, so that makes sense. That's a good pick. Again, I'm going to sit here and continue to hit the why is Perot still available drum. I'm going to bang that drum as hard as I can. Who's next? Minnesota. Okay. Please don't let someone like Perot fall to Philadelphia. I don't want him anywhere near Tortorella. Imagine a team coached by John Tortorella ends up with Mitchkov and Perot. That's terrifying. John Tortorella shouldn't be allowed near any offensive base players. Like no one with any offensive base talent should be anywhere near John Tortorella. Although to be fair, they shouldn't be near Mike Babcock as well. And you're about to see one of the most skilled players in the draft is now a Columbus Blue Jacket. I don't like the idea this could be a win for those two. There's still nothing on why Perot has dropped. I'm trying to work this one out. It doesn't make much sense. They just asked the latest Kraken if he's watched any Kraken, and he gave an answer that clearly was no. Okay, so Minnesota are up. Look, Minnesota. They could go center. If they go center, there's someone like a Callum Ritchie. There's a Callum Ritchie available. There's Riley Hyde if they want to stretch. Andrew Cristal if they want to add some depth on the wing. Surely, Perot. Surely. We can't keep going. He can't keep dropping. And you'd like to think that Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild are smart enough to pick. All right, here we go. Oh, God. Bill Guerin actually referenced Tootsie's, which is the well-known bar in Nashville that everyone gets trashed in. Charlie Strammel. That's a stretch. That's a stretch. Strammel was way down the rankings. He was sort of 37th in the Wheeler draft. He did make it to 23 in the Pronoman mock to the Rangers. So okay, that means that that means Philadelphia could get a second skill player. I don't think I can cope with the idea that Philadelphia get a second skill player. Surely they draft someone like Bonk. Okay. I mean, look, Bill Guerin has the moment of the night so far by praising the bar. That's epic. Okay. Okay. Gabe Perreault's still there. Andrew Cristal's still there. Musty. Quentin Musty. Come on. We're all Quentin Musty stands here. We are all Quentin Musty stands. I really hope, there's was getting musty in here sort of party. I was looking to see if there was any footage of the True Living arrival on the floor. It was so low key. David Alter's the only one who got it. It's like filmed it on a phone. I was very much of the opinion that I thought Toronto would be trading the pick. But there's enough quality players dropping here that I think that Toronto can stick and get someone decent. Realistically, Philadelphia, the Rangers, Nashville, St. Louis, San Jose are the biggest chance of drafting the defenseman. Toronto can probably, if Toronto really wanted to get, for example, if Toronto really wanted to get Dragicevic, they could probably push in front of St. Louis or Nashville. Either of those would probably do it. But like, you've still got Quentin Musty. You've still got, there's a ton of good players still available. And obviously, Perreault is the gem there that's still there at the moment. There's enough good quality picks. Yep, that's the one that I thought would happen. Oliver Bonk, Philadelphia. Yep, it's Bonk. So the big defenseman, Bonk. There's still players there. There's still decent defensemen there. If I was Toronto, I'd probably push ahead for Dragicevic. But the other move here, legitimately the other move, and I know you want a defenseman, but the other move is jump up now and get Perreault while he's there, because that's a massive fall. Like the level of talent available at the pick, I would be jumping up and grabbing him right now. I know you want defense, but I'd jump up and grab Perreault ahead of another defenseman at this point in time. I think you can probably solve your defensive problems through trades. I know you want the right-hand defenseman. Remember, he's not going to play this year. You're not going to get, at this point in the draft, you're not getting a right-handed defenseman who's going to step into that lineup. It's 2 or 3 years down the track you're looking for that. At this point in time, they need that help on the right-handed side of defense now. I would do that through trade, and I would probably take best talent available at this point in time. Because realistically, Dragicevic is probably the last one that I would draft at this point in time. Wallander's obviously off the board. Yeah, I need to fill the cupboard, but again, I would think like Perreault's talent level means that, put it this way, if you get to that pick and Perreault is still there and Dragicevic is not, you've got to take Perreault. You can't pass it. But if you're getting, so this is the other thing too, if you're going Quentin Musty, you might as well have taken Perreault. Like, if it's Musty or Perreault, that's not a question mark. It's Gabe Perreault by a mile. It's Gabe Perreault. like an extra playmaker who plays on the left wing and is seen as having ridiculous level hockey smarts, I would take Gabe Perreault over the top of Musty. And I know that part of the fall of Perreault is probably people looking at his size, looking at Vegas and going, you need to be big. I don't think you need to be Vegas big to win. I think that's a line. They got the right matchups. I would take Gabe Perreault over Quentin Musty. 100%. But that's what I think. He's still there. Like, at this point in time, I think it's a smart move. I'm a bit worried about the Rangers, to be honest with you, because the Rangers have a really there's a question that's not been asked a lot, but it needs to be asked. The Rangers have a history at the moment of drafting really high and ruining those players. There's a lot of really good and good players. They didn't draft maybe good players. They drafted at the time very good players that have not developed. What is going wrong with the Rangers development system? What is going wrong? Like, Lafreniere should be better than he is. Capo Caco, I was ridiculously high on Capo Caco. I still am. I still think there's a player there. They just don't work to the level they should in New York. I wouldn't want them anywhere near an offensive talent. They might be the one to go at. Still think the Rangers baffle me. The Rangers baffle me because they had a really good build going and blew it up. Gabriel Perreault goes to the Rangers. Good, another offensive talent they can mess up. Look, I'll give the Rangers credit. They didn't overthink it. Perreault's on the board. Take him. That's a good pick. Again, I don't think they'll use him properly. The best offensive players in this draft have ended up in the worst possible offensive situations. Come on. The best offensive talents in this draft have gone to the worst offensive situations possible. No. This is ridiculous. Oh. I'm still wondering. I mean, I'm still not convinced there's not a conversation to be had around the Rangers possibly trying to move Panarin. I'm still not convinced that they haven't sort of had an internal conversation around that one. For what Panarin's paid, his numbers are not what they need to be, especially at key moments. He just disappears. Last year, he disappeared in the playoffs right up until he scored that winner, but he was bad for the rest of that playoff run. In that first series, he suddenly scored the winner, and everyone, oh, look, he's great. And he was horrible. This year, Panarin was again terrible. Now, obviously, you've added Laviolette as the coach, has a slightly different system, but I don't know. I would still consider it. If I was New York, I would see what is out there. Again, the problem is I don't necessarily trust Drury to lead a rebuild. And especially when you've, like, for the Rangers, especially, but they've got to get it right. They've got, I still consider the best goalie in the league behind them. So, you know who I feel? I never thought I'd say this. I feel really sorry for Gary Bettman today. He hasn't got to come up and do his whole. We have a trade to announce. Poor guy. Oh, we've just got some personality. He likes nice jackets. Can I just say, like, one of the things they beat the personality out of NHL players very young. Like, if you've watched the NFL draft and then you watch the NHL draft, they are night and day events. Like, the personality is just beaten out of these kids from a young age. So when they get up here to be drafted, they say all of the right things right down the line. There's no brash, I'm here, it's just so milk toast. I just want someone to stand up and go, you better believe they drafted me here. Or, yeah, all these teams passed on me. They'll keep something like that. Be a bit confident at least. Nah, just here to play. I'm a good kid. I'm here to play. It's what we do. We play. Here we go. So the Predators using the Oilers pick now. I'm interested to see when the Erik Karlsson move happens. I suspect it will probably come the day after the draft finishes. I suspect that's when we'll see the Karlsson move. I'm interested. Okay, so I am interested to know, what do you think of the idea of Karlsson being linked with the Leafs and the Leafs trying to work a deal out there? I'm interested in that one. And remember, I've got to watch a lot of Karlsson this year in particular. Don't want all the showboating. I want a little bit of personality, though. All showboating? Nah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh, Gary's ordering the stage. Go, Gary. Everyone walks up on the stage and Gary's like, you need to all stand. He really is the fun police. Hey, Barry Trotz. We're finally acknowledging it's Barry Trotz. Finally. We're not pretending. Tonight of players not being able to say names. Tanner Mollendijk, another defenseman. That's a left-handed defenseman, so don't panic. He's left-handed. Okay, this is now getting interesting for me because obviously San Jose is about to be up. St. Louis are up, and then it's San Jose. So yeah, just go back to the question I asked before. What do you think about the idea of the rumor of the Leafs trying to get in on Carlson? And then I can actually give you a take on how Carlson actually was this year, as opposed to the very, very checkerboard views of Carlson on Twitter. I really look. I won't lie. I do like the Nashville goal song. Okay, so Carlson's interesting. Eric's this year, legitimately, most of the time he looked like old Erik Karlsson. He actually looked. I don't mean old as in old and frail. I mean the guy we traded for. Yeah, the talk is that San Jose will make him an $8 million player, so they'll eat a little bit. They won't eat half. And I wouldn't eat half if I was us either. So to give you an idea on Carlson, and it's something that I've really I've wanted to push a bit more. Yeah. So here's the thing with Carlson. First of all, the 101 points thing, he was absolutely magnificent on that front. Now people go, yes, but you're getting him as a defenseman, and look at him as a negative. It was negative 26. The negatives were all either he was playing on the penalty kill or empty net goals. He was a dead even zero, plus minus for the Sharks, on a Sharks team that was decidedly terrible. Defensively, there were like individual little moments there where they were showing him as being a pylon. He genuinely this year wasn't defensively as bad. You've also got to remember who he was playing with most of the season. Like they had really mediocre defenseman stapled to Erik Karlsson. And then at the end of the season, he had Henry Thrun, who will be good, but is very young and is very much a prospect in development. So Karlsson's partners were not great. And the Sharks were not trying to win. Karlsson was given free rein to push forward because they weren't trying to win. And by the second half of the season, the entirety of the Sharks' effort was committed to getting Erik Karlsson 100 points. That was the season. The aim was Carlson for 100, and that was all they were doing. They were getting the puck to him. They were playing. They didn't care how many they conceded. It was, can they get Carlson points? In terms of getting Carlson, if the Sharks set it down to an 8 million thing, it's probably not too bad. Remember, it's something that can be buried cap-wise if the injuries come back and it's too great. But Carlson's not had... The goaltending's been terrible behind him. The defensive core around him's been terrible. And we've been playing like plugs in front of him. Like, remember, there was a large period of time this season where, like, it was Logan Couture, Thomas Hertel, and extras. It's not been great. Alexander Barabanov had a period of time where he was playing first line and second line minutes. Like, I just feel like Carlson's got too much hate for what he actually did this season. Last season he was terrible, but he was beaten up and injured. This is the closest to a perfectly fit Carlson we've seen since he got to San Jose. And I think any team that gets him in a team that's good, the benefit of having Erik Karlsson far outweighs the risk of, he's a pylon. Well, he's not really a pylon. On a good team, he's not a pylon. If he's playing one out, and like James Reimer was beyond mediocre in net this year, and Capo Karkkonen was all over the place. There's a reason why they went out and got Mackenzie Blackwood. They want someone in net who's decent. So, look, I'd be wary, but I would think that if you're looking for your big body defenseman who can get you some points and help generate, and that's the other thing with Toronto. If you've got Karlsson on the back end generating offense, and you've got Karlsson generating the puck for Matthews and for Marner, that's a good little thing you got going there. So they could do worse. They could genuinely do worse. They have done worse. Justin Hall. Okay, Otto Stenberg, center, which means that San Jose is now on the clock. The Sharks are on the clock, and there's free reign. Okay. This will be interesting for San Jose. Okay. This will be interesting. This will be really interesting. Pick is in, so San Jose have made the pick. Okay. I would be happy with Musty, Cristal, or Dragicevic for San Jose. Who do we get? considering everyone was talking about the amount of moves that were going to happen when they walked into the room, nobody's done anything. They just refer to David Quinn as the uncomfortably handsome David Quinn. Musty! That's a good one. The good news is you've missed out on Musty. The good news is Dragicevic is still there, so your right-handed defenseman is sitting there. Again, I know we got Musty, but again, that means Dragicevic is sitting there. So if you want your right-handed defenseman, he's there. Musty with... Yeah, we've got, again, there's some good prospects starting to come through now for San Jose, which is we need another one or two drafts to really add some quality, but that's what we're after. Philip Bystat, Thomas Bordelot. Again, you've got Bystat, Bordelot. Obviously, the sort of the linchpin of everything we're doing is William Eklund, Musty. You obviously then add in Smith as the center. Look, the cupboard is being restocked for San Jose. I can't complain about that. That's quite a good pick. That's not bad. Look, as I said, I think that San Jose's done better than anticipated. The issue with Quentin Musty is his skating is not brilliant. That's an issue. So you'd obviously probably want better skating, but hopefully that's something you can develop within the system and you can do some work on and get some better skating going. I mean, look, if any team was going to move a pick, you would think it would be the Avalanche. They've got 2 at the end of this draft, and what business? Like, I would, if I was the Avs, I'd use one of these 2 picks, but I wouldn't use both of them. Apparently, Treliving is on the phone at the moment. The pick is in, so Colorado's not trading this one. Surely they trade the second one. I can't believe, by the way, that they got a 1 and a 2 for Newhook. That's crazy to me. A 1 and a 2 for Alex Newhook is nuts. Yeah, the good news is, again, it's very unlikely they go defense, which means that, he should be sitting right there for you. Here we go. Here go the Avs. Callum Ritchie, so there goes the center. Callum Ritchie from Oshawa. So that now puts Toronto on the clock. And the defenseman is sitting there if they want him. I would not expect Toronto to go center. Obviously, I would not expect them to go center. I mean, look, Andrew Cristal's there. Cristal's there. Dragicevic is there. I really have enjoyed the fact that Leafs Twitter has melted down with the fact that San Jose got musty. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious to me. Toronto is still on the clock. They have not made the pick yet. And he was on the phone. Could Brad Treliving screw you over and trade down for the fun of it? Still on the clock. Still on the clock. I'm going to taunt you with this one until they actually make the pick. I'm just going to taunt you with it. They're on the clock. They're on the clock. 1:35. Still on the clock. Pick is in. They were talking about the idea that Ryan Hardy is involved, and yeah, that could be interesting. Here comes Toronto. Okay, Leafs are up. They've got a child in a Leafs jersey, and for half a second there, I thought they just had a small Carlton the Bear. Treliving's up. They've now thanked Tootsies. Wow, that's off the board. Easton Cowan. A center. You went a center. London Knights center. He was ranked 97th in Wheeler's draft. 97th. 5'10", 170. That's a terrible decision. That's a decision. That's batshit. That is crazy. No, it was no. As they pointed out, that it's not just well, no, he didn't. London Knights. That's nuts. There were so many options there, and Toronto did that. That's insanity. Cristal, right there. Dragsevich, right there. Easton Cowan was so far back, he looks like he's in the rafters. If there's one thing Toronto needed, it was an 18-year-old short center. That's insane. That is mental. That is absolutely mental. And remember, you're not on the board again until the 5th. That's your draft right there. That's your draft. As Mikey Stevens just put it, are we sure that Mark Hunter didn't sneak his way in the back door? That's insane. I did say that I was deeply concerned with where Toronto's heads were going to be at, and that they might make a bunch of really dumb decisions, but that feels weird. If you were going to do that, and they're talking about they're going to give him a really long runway and they're going to give him a lot of time to develop, and he's a very much a down the line prospect here. If you're Toronto, why don't you flip that first and try to get yourself something to win now? Like, that's what I'm trying to work out here. I know the cupboard's bare, but if you're going to go with that pick, flip the pick. Trade. Try to get a trade where you get a player and maybe you get a second or a third. If you liked him, you could have got him at the end of the second round or the start of the third round easily. So that's a flip that pick. Get yourself to the back end of the second, start of the third, pick up a player or a prospect or something along those lines in the meantime, use it to move forward. That would have been logical. That's mental. That is insane. That's the dumbest thing I've seen. Theo Lindstein goes to St. Louis. That's a defenseman. That's a left, from what I remember, he's a left-handed. Yeah, he's a left-sided shot. And that's exactly where he was mocked as well. He was mocked at St. Louis. Carolina is going to walk into bloody... Carolina is going to walk into Cristal here. That's insane. Have we recovered yet? Have we fallen off our chair? Are we breathing? I feel like it's my responsibility to check in that you're breathing. So we're getting closer to the end here. We're getting much closer to the end. How are we going, Mikey? Are we surviving? Are we surviving? Have you come to terms with it yet? Look, there's some numbers out there that suggest he's actually a good player, but just probably a long way down the development line. I would have still traded. I would have traded down and seen if I could have got him later and got something to win now. Yeah. But everyone's now flying off the board here. Like everyone is flying off the board at this point in time. Okay. Carolina Hurricanes coming up now. Surely Andrew Cristal's about to fly off the board here. Like, surely Carolina's about to walk up and go, are you kidding me? Sure, we'll have another offensive player. Here we go, Carolina. Okay, Bradley Nadeau. So again, Andrew Cristal falls a little bit further. It's been an interesting draft. It's been a very intriguing draft. I think the first picks, obviously, the first big shock was second. But the top four went in the top four, and then we got largely what we sort of anticipated out of the rest of the top 10. And then as we've got into the 20s, everyone's gone a little bit crazy. I still think that the misstep of the night is I still would have taken Fantilli second. I still would have taken Adam Fantilli second. And interestingly enough, I suspect that if they'd taken Fantilli second, I think San Jose would have got Carlson at 4, because I think that the only reason why the Columbus Blue Jackets moved off Smith was that Fantilli was there. If it was Smith or Carlson, I think they probably take Smith, and San Jose get Carlson. But look, from a Sharks perspective, I can't be upset with Will Smith and Quentin Musty. No, we're big Musty fans here. We're big Musty fans. It's getting musty in here. I think the big important one, especially for you, Mikey, the big important one for you is going to be what happens next. Nylander, is it a re-signing or is it a trade? How they restock that defensive core, what the cap situation looks like around restocking that defensive core. The Matthews contract and what that looks like. He's going to sign. It's okay long, probably 3 to 4. I'd expect you won't get a full deal out of him. You'll get a 3 to 4 renewal. And he did say he's going to leave some money on the table because he wants the team to build. So I think you've probably got some interesting questions to be answered in the next few days for Toronto, I think. I'm really disappointed that a bunch of the top attacking talents have all gone to coaches who can't really coach offense. And look, I'm going to include San Jose in that. Like, I'm going to say David Quinn's not great. I don't, personally, I would rather, Ryan Wasowski, who's our assistant, is who I actually want to coach the Sharks. But, I think David Quinn is here to manage this. Nylander needs to be re-signed. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to trade him, especially after making the camp move. I would not trade William Nylander. I would not. And I have been steadfast in this the whole way through. Every time anyone's mentioned trading William Nylander, I think that's a dumb decision. Colorado is actually making the pick. Yeah, the Ross Colton move. They're talking about the Ross Colton move. That's an underrated trade. Like landing Ross Colton is a dynamite move by Columbus. By Colorado. Okay, look away, Mikey. Look away. Look away. You don't want to see what they just picked. You don't want to see what they just picked. Okay, don't look. It's much better for you if you don't look. I mean, it was a left-handed and a right-handed defenseman, but still, again, and any player who's comparable is Adam Fox. You know, he's a 16. He was 16 when he came onto the scene. He's 18 now, obviously. You watch Vegas go out and draft your big-bodied right-handed defenseman and just really ruin the rest of your night. Because Vegas are up now, and you watch Vegas go out and get him. Dragicevic. So we're going to wrap it up as we get into the last pick here. Obviously there'll be a lot of people who'll just skim this later on because it's available on all platforms, and that's the purpose of doing this now, is that people may not watch it now, but they might skim it to see the best bits. Not a lot of action, to be honest with you, but it's been an interesting draft. I think there are a few franchises that have done really well. I don't like saying that Philadelphia have done well, but Philadelphia have done well. Columbus have to be absolutely ecstatic with what they're going to get out of this draft as well. Like the fact that they're going to get they got Fantilli out of this. They did not imagine they were coming into this and getting Adam Fantilli. So I think they're a winner out of this. Chicago's picks are really good. Outside of the obvious Bedard one, Chicago's done really well. I think San Jose's done incredibly well out of this draft as well. That's what they needed to do. Montreal, I don't think it's the best use of the draft capital that they had. And I think Montreal could have done better and traded down. They could have traded down a couple of picks and done better. If Montreal were really clever, they could have tried to bluff Philadelphia into saying that they were going to take Mishkov and try to get Philly to jump up. But, didn't bother to do that. And given that Philly had a couple of picks there, you could have leveraged that a bit more. Arizona's probably had one of the weirdest drafts. Like they took players that are decent and players they were probably expected to take, but not expected to take for like extra picks down the line. Like again, they were expected to pick one of these guys at 12. They picked him at 6. The other one probably into the first round, take him at 12. Just bizarre from Arizona. Toronto, we've spoken about. I could be a very good player down the line. Looks like the numbers look good for down the line, but he looks like a very down the line player. Like that's a really far down the line prospect that they've signed, that they've traded, they've drafted. Reminder: I've been up since 4:30. It's currently 12:30. Yeah, look, it's been a fun draft. Thank you for those of you who have been along. Thank you, Mike, in particular. Thank you for everyone who checks in on the course of this after the fact. We will finish off with the last pick before we go. I'm not signing off until the last pick is done because, I'm committed. Yeah, he is a very small center. A very small center. So, that's, yeah. I am more amazed the fact that we haven't had a single trade. But the fact there's not been a single trade is incredible. I'm also still staggered that the Avalanche traded twice, drafted twice. Like, if you had told me that Colorado was going to draft twice, and again, look, we've had this discussion before. I think that size can be overblown, but if you've got one pick there, you should probably draft for need. Here we go. Vegas are up. And Vegas picks center David Edstrom from Sweden to finish it off. So Edstrom's a decent draft there, a decent pick there. He's sort of around that area. He was expected to go sort of at this tail end here, so that's not too far off the board. So not a bad pick for Vegas. That's going to do us because we've been on for almost 4 hours. It's been a fast one, actually. And that sounds weird to say when it's almost 4 hours and it's a fast one, but this is a fast one. Last year we were here for 4.5 hours. It was ridiculous. Thank you, everybody who's been listening in, either if you've tuned in live and commented back, or if you've watched it back later on, or if you've stuck through any of this. Thank you, everyone, for enjoying it. Brendan and I will be back in a couple of days' time with a full recap of this, probably linking into free agency. So we'll be going through all the free agency moves, all the trades that are going to happen around free agency, all the re-signings, all of those things. But we'll catch you all later.